Dak, Purdy, Lamar, Hurts, Tyreek, Mahomes, way back there. Josh Allen.
Behind him?
Well, Josh Allen.
What's the question?
Is there any chance Josh Allen can make a case for the MVP if he wins and has a great performance?
Well, look, he can get back. He can't make a case to be leading after. I don't care if he throws for 500 yards and they win. He can't be leading by any stretch. Can he get in the conversation? Yes. It'll be difficult, but hear me out, Nick. Hear me out.
I'm listening.
There's steps. The first step would be to beat Dallas and play tremendously, right? So let's say he throws for 360, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Clean game. All right.
That would be amazing.
They would. Right, that would be.
He's throwing a pick in 9 straight games.
So it's going to be difficult. But let's say he does that. Secondly, they have to win out and win the division. Now, these are difficult things, but I'm just saying they are within the realm of possibility.
Sure, I agree with
that.
that.
So win out, win the division.
Yeah.
And the other guy, mainly Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott, and then probably even Lamar Jackson, need to really falter badly. Like John, he doesn't control his own MVP destiny. He can play great from here on out, but if Dak continues to play great, if Brock continues to play great, and then a few other guys, then he can't jump them because he will have done it for a part of the season where they've done it essentially for the whole season.
Well, look, this is what I'm talking about. When I feel like I have been unfairly for 4 years tarred as a Josh Allen hater, when I feel like the only sane man in a world full of crazy people. This is what I'm talking about when I say we hold him and discuss him by different standards than every other player in the league. Wildes, I know you've got the graphic. We'll go to you on this. What do all of the last decade of MVPs have in common?
Well, I'm glad you asked. They're all usually the number 1 seed or on 2 occasions the number 2 seed. We could show the graphic here. The footnote here, the Bills are currently the 11th seed, so there is a 1 in there. But it doesn't give him twice the odds.
2 ones.
Everyone's a number 1 seed.
There's
not even in the playoffs.
Everybody's also a quarterback.
Yes.
That could change.
So here's the other thing, though. They all also not only are the 1 or the 2 seed, and we can remember all of those seasons, they were phenomenal statistically. Let's show Josh Allen's numbers, because he is not phenomenal statistically right now in anything but total touchdowns. He's not even leading in passing touchdowns, he's second, but total touchdowns. And what all of the MVPs also have in common is they led the league in many categories, none of which were turnovers, which we can show you this. Here's where MVPs ranked in turnovers. Josh Allen is first, okay? So like when Mahomes won it, he was 15th. Rodgers was 40th and 34th. The worst, if you will, was Peyton in 10th. Josh is first. And this is where I get so frustrated. Josh Allen has not had anything close to an MVP caliber season since 2020. 2020, it was legit. He had a 107 rating. That was the year he was tied for second team All-Pro with Mahomes. He had a great year. Now, there were greater years that year. Mahomes and Rodgers clearly had better years. Some people thought Brady did. But it was an MVP type of year.
Right.
I think this will shock you guys. Since then, over the last 3 years, where do you think Josh Allen ranks in the league in passer rating? Just the catch-all everything passer rating.
3 years?
Over the last 3 years, cumulative. Because every year we've had a Josh Allen MVP discussion at some point. 15th. 15th. And yet we are now here for a guy. And one other thing on the record, because you guys know I'm not a quarterback wins guy, but what I would say is this. No one could argue, Brew, and I don't think you would, that the Bills' record is in despite Josh Allen's performances.
No.
They lost the Jets game, the Pats game, and the Broncos game directly because of his mistakes. So this idea of, we shouldn't, I might agree in some instances, don't penalize a guy because of his team's record if he has been just exceptional.
C.J. Stroud.
And then C.J. Stroud, for this week notwithstanding, exactly right. That's not it. And I I don't understand, Brew, why we keep trying to change all types of rules, either literal in the case of overtime or figurative in the case of how we do the MVPs for this player. I don't understand that.
I agree with that.
Well, the MVP is full of unwritten rules. All right. And this, I think the things that help Josh, and I agree, he's not in it now, but there's no one running away with it. And that's the fact. And again, remember, I said the others would have to falter badly. The leaders, the guys that are in front of him. This is a strange year. And you are right. People do love, Josh Allen maybe more than they should. They're trying to make him the best player in the league and all that.
Yeah.
So I just think I would say if they go off on some great run and they play some tough teams and the other guys falter, he's in the hunt because no one who's running away with it. Is Mahomes still in the hunt?
What? Not
like
really.
if he has, you know what I'm saying?
Do I think it is in all of the possible universes that could happen? Do I think one or two of them exist where Mahomes wins the MVP? Sure, but because he's also in the hunt for the 1 seed. He's in the, they are in a different spot. And let me ask this question because I think you guys will immediately scoff at it, and then I'll try to back it up as best as I can. Is Jared Goff in the hunt?
He was.
Is Jared Goff?
I would say not right now.
Okay, so let's show their numbers this year.
No, I get his numbers are better.
Jared, well, here's the thing. They're not really better. They're identical essentially. And now Josh obviously has more total touchdowns. You know what I mean? But he also has far more total turnovers. And I think the audience's initial reflexive answer would be, well, yeah, but Allen's been so much better over the course of his career. Show their careers. So, Brew, you're scoffing, but this is, again, kind of my point. Goff actually has done something Allen never has done. He's been to a Super Bowl. Goff's apex year is damn near as good as Josh's apex year. The second year with McVay, the year that they had the number 1 scoring offense in the league, all of that. I agree, by the way. Josh Allen not only is eye test-wise better than Jared Goff. I agree. I would rather have Josh Allen than Jared Goff. But the point I'm making is their careers and even this season's production have been far closer than their discussion points, if you will. And Goff has been further in the postseason.
The reason I was scoffing is because you'll put up the numbers and compare those two, or yesterday, who was it, Lamar? And
it was Stafford and Baker.
Stafford and Baker.
And then I think it was Lamar and Baker. I did both.
You compare Lamar and Baker. And you'll do that. But then when it comes to Purdy's numbers, you want to discount him because he has great teammates. And that's why I was scoffing, because it's like, well, here you want to use numbers to say, Jared Goff is having as great a year as Josh Allen. But then when we put up Brock Purdy's numbers, which are Brock Purdy and Dak are like the only 2 guys this year who have great numbers.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, I think Tua would have a case, but he's not for MVP, but for great numbers. But listen, if I don't want that every discussion we have be polluted by the fact we disagree on Brock Purdy. But what I would say is I don't think the Lions and Bills have drastically different supporting casts. I don't think you guys do. I think I have to listen to all the time about how talented the Bills are. Stephon Diggs, Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think the Lions have better running backs. You know what I mean? I think they have a better coach. But I don't look at what the Goff is dealing with and what Allen's dealing with as drastically stacked decks, and I don't think you do either.
I'll be honest with you. A lot of times we come on the show, you have an argument. You're 100% right.
Oh, thank you.
Usually it's like
Josh Allen is 100%?
He's out. Yeah, if we were to...
He's out.
He's out.
How's he out?
They're in 11th place.
They're in 11th place. It has to be a 1 or 2 seed.
It doesn't have to be a 1 or 2 seed.
It was for the last decade.
That's like saying it has to be a quarterback.
Well, for the last decade, the last 10 years.
Things change.
He's in 11th place.
I mean, Adrian Peterson won it in 2012 as a running back. Yeah. You said Myles Garrett at one point. Christian McCaffrey, maybe. Tyreek Hill. I mean, this is an odd year where no one's doing what Aaron Rodgers did a few years ago.
Josh Allen is out. I can't have people say, you know what, he's going to be the favorite for MVP. No, he's not. It just takes a drop of research to say that would be a historical anomaly.
And I think we all can agree on, Brew, whether or not you're right that he can get back in the conversation. And to be fair to Brew, Brew's part of him getting back into it was all of the fake.
Absolutely.
If it's the New York City Marathon, a lot of people just all of a sudden fall down and pull their hamstrings, and someone passes them up.
Absolutely.
That person can win.
Right.
Not someone that's going to run a 4 hour.
But you're saying that couldn't even that wouldn't matter.
What I think we can all agree on is he is discussed in an odd light. He is discussed, even in that game. There was when it was tied and they ended up kicking the field goal, and Romo almost begrudgingly had to admit, he had Gabe Davis wide open for a touchdown and missed it. And then he says, but he did throw a dime. While they're showing the video of him sailing the pass, he did choose to throw out of bounds. It is just a weird paradigm that, you know what it dates back to? The NHF picks. I told you about this.
Oh, it's not his
They're
fault.
not his fault picks.
No.
It dates back to that being a whole new
People
stat.
have really tried to make.
You know where I've heard that from, bro? You, for the last 2 years.
Well, yeah, I'm glad Mike watches the show. You're right.
I hope
have
he
been
doesn't,
saying
or
it
else
for
he
about
will not
2
like
years.
you at all. You've been very mean to Mike.
I'm actually, I call it like I see it. All right, but anyway, yes, I have been saying this and I stand by it. I'm glad a Super Bowl winning coach agrees with me. He is this generation's Brett Favre. Now, I know Nick's going to say, because he said it before, only minus the 3 straight MVPs and the Super Bowl
minus all the things that made Favre.
No, that's not what made Favre. You're right. He doesn't have the hardware of Favre. We'll see if he ends up getting an MVP at some point in the Super Bowl. But, Nick, the way they play, the arm talent, the strength, just the physical strength of their game, the fact that on any given Sunday, they can be the best quarterback in the world. The recklessness, some of the negatives, the recklessness, the gunslinging, all of that stuff, that is what is similar. Now, it's a different generation. It's a different game now, so the numbers will be somewhat different. But that's what I mean.
Stylistically,
you're going to have to take the good with the bad.
Yes,
or the great with the bad.
But I just want people to understand that so I will be as fair as I can to Josh here, and when I do through 6 years, include Brett's first year, which was in Atlanta, and he didn't even play. I won't exclude that. Let's just go tail of the tape through 6 years and just see. So Favre had won 2 MVPs. He'd been 2-time first-team All-Pro. He'd won an Offensive Player of the Year. He'd won a Super Bowl. He'd led the league in major categories. Josh has done none of it.
Yeah.
This, to me, Brew, you know what it would be like if 6 years into his career, people were like, man, Vince Carter reminds me a hell of a lot of a young Michael Jordan. Well, okay, the highlights are similar. Yeah, and it would have been ludicrous. Because it is being stylistically the same is not the same. And by the way, in year 7 for Favre, he went to another Super Bowl, won another league MVP, led the league in touchdowns again. Like, I bet that surprised people. Josh Allen's never led the league in passing touchdowns. He's never led the league in passing yards. He's never led the league in passer rating. He's never been a first-team All-Pro. We know he's never been an MVP. He's been to 1 conference championship game, never been to a Super Bowl, and we're comparing Brett Favre, who threw by the end of year 6 already was a Hall of Famer.
But when I say it, I'm not just comparing accomplishments. And I think if someone had said, yeah, Vince Carter reminds me of Michael Jordan, it would have been perfectly fine. Nobody's saying he's as good as Michael Jordan. He does play a similar style. That's what people would be saying. I think Josh is a top, like Favre obviously was always a top 5 quarterback during his prime. I think Josh is that.
No, Favre went through a period where he was hands down the best. That when you win 3 straight MVPs, you are hands down the best. And I guess maybe I have less of an issue with McCarthy's comments than the one I've heard from you so long. Doesn't bother me as much as this generation's. If someone said Vince is this generation's Michael Jordan, and it's like, well, except for, he's this generation's Michael Jordan, and Nick always says, except for, the championships and the MVPs, that's
Is there a this generation's Brett Favre right now?
No.
Okay. I would say he's the one, though.
5, CeeDee Lamb. I think he can officially become a top 5 receiver. I think 4 spots are locked, kind of. I think Tyreek, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and Jamar Chase are locked. That 5th spot's open, and I think for some people, Stephon Diggs had been in it. I think he's moving out of it. I think another great game from CeeDee Lamb could put him there. Number 4, Micah Parsons' podcast audience. Oh, he's going to have some fire for us, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to. I guarantee you, he will declare Dak the MVP. We will be back to Super Bowl talk. All of it. We'll be mad about it. Number 3, the other AFC wildcard contenders if the Cowboys beat the Bills. So that means for Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Houston, Denver, Cincinnati, all those teams, along with Buffalo, are fighting for the final 2 spots in the playoffs. They're all 7-6. The Bills would be de facto eliminated. Now, the flip side, if the Bills win, Josh Allen individually, because, unfortunately, because the MVP discussion is a literal discussion had by NFL talking heads, it will be the discussion on Monday. Has Josh Allen been the MVP all along? And certainly, Josh Allen, we will totally disregard the fact that they fired their offensive coordinator because of his 3 turnovers in the Denver game.
Turns it around.
We will, and again, the turning it around, he has a lot to gain. I think it will be nonsense, but he has a lot to gain. And then, of course, number 1 is Dak. So here's an interesting thing. This is the 4th straight prime time or de facto prime time game for Dak on his 4th different network. So he will have had on Thanksgiving, Nance and Romo say, is he the MVP, and start talking about it. The next Thursday, Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit talking about it. Last week, it was, who was it? Oh, it was Chris Collinsworth. This week, it's our guys Olsen and Burkhardt. And in 2 weeks, he's on Monday Night Football with Buck and Aikman. If there is such a thing as kind of culling the full audience or national support for MVP, having every single major A-list broadcast team say how great you're playing when he's played great in all of them, would maybe put the final piece for Dak. So I think he has the most to gain.
Solid.
I think it's interesting that when Nick named the 5 top receivers in the league, there was not a 49er on there. In some quarters, all I hear
everything
is that
be about Brock Purdy.
No, I'm just saying.
This is the second
these
time
are my comments, and I get the floor to say what I want.
Well, not everything.
And that's
you
what
can't
I'm
just
saying.
start talking about your
I'm just throwing out that that's interesting.
Okay.
All right, number 2, I would move Allen ahead of Dak.
Okay.
Because Dak is already number 1 in the MVP race.
Good point.
And I think both of them still have season to play, so Dak could be great, but then if he struggles in a few games, it could change. Same for Allen. I would move, so Allen's number 1 because Dak's going to make the playoffs regardless.
Yeah.
Allen, if they win this game and then they got the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins, he could really put himself in good position to solidify a playoff berth, because 10-7 might get him in.
Yeah, I don't think it will.
You think they got to go 11-6?
Yeah, because they lost because of who they've lost head-to-head to. You know what I mean? They lost head-to-head to Denver. They lost head-to-head to Cincinnati. They have a bad conference record. So I think 10-7. I think there will be a 10-7 team that makes the playoffs, but I don't think they have the tiebreakers. You want to do most to lose? All right, number 5, most to lose. NFL pundits, including some that will remain nameless, that Wildes was watching this morning with fury in his eyes, talking about Josh Allen's actually the MVP if Josh Allen plays poorly, and that MVP for a 7-6 team that had a half-life of 3 days. Number 4, Stephon Diggs. Bragging rights for Lil Bro. Never want to have to deal with that. He's had 0 100-yard games since week 6. There was already chatter about does he want out of Buffalo, obviously. That could be a storyline. And didn't play great against the Chiefs. They shut him down a bit. Number 3, the Eagles and the 49ers, if Dallas wins, they stay right on their tail for the 1 or the 2 seed, depending on it. And as long as Dallas keeps winning, both of those teams know they must keep winning or Dallas passes them. Number 2, most to lose, Miami. Because if Buffalo wins this game, there is all of a sudden a real possibility Buffalo catches them for the AFC East, unless Miami wins out the rest of the way. And the number 1 most to lose is Sean McDermott. Because all that scrutiny from last week that got kind of washed away in the wind will be right back. They will be a 500 team with 3 weeks left to go. The New York Times playoff predictor can't save them then. And Sean McDermott's out of the coordinators to fire. So I think he has the most to lose potentially on Sunday.
I agree with that.